4th Metropolitan Traffic and Parking Commission meeting. If you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. All right, before we get started, we have introductions. We have 2 new commissioners been appointed by the mayor and approved by the council. Sonny Tefel, welcome, and Brendan Mason, welcome. We look forward to working with you over these next several years, and thank you for being here. Thank you for your service and agreeing to serve. Okay. Move for a motion for approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All right, we have first and second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of the May 10th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's been approved. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Please note that items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. So does anybody have any issues with any items that they'd like to discuss further? Okay. Seeing none, I will read the consent agenda. We'll move for approval. Item A is to reduce the speed limit on Estes Road from 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour from Woodlawn Drive to Woodmont Boulevard, requested by council members Murphy, Pulley, and Henderson. Item B, reduce the speed limit on Abbott Martin from 35 to 30 miles per hour from Hillsborough Pike to Estes Road, requested by Councilmember Pulley and Henderson. Item C, authorize stop control on Decatur Street at Willow Street. That's been requested by a resident. Item D is to authorize stop control on Willow Street at Stanley Street, requested by resident. Item E is to authorize stop control Sweden Drive at Monaco Drive, again requested by a resident. Item F is to authorize stop control Andrew Place at Sandy Drive, requested by a resident. And item G, a request for the abandonment of right-of-way along the portion of Hamilton Avenue, starting at the CSX Railroad and heading westward approximately 145 feet, requested by Fulmer Lucas Engineering. And item H, authorized stop control at 55th Avenue North at New York Avenue, requested by a resident. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I just got a text from Council Lady Henderson. No comment, but she thought we were WebEx, so if we have any questions for her, let me know real quick, but it seems like we're going in the right direction.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I'm well aware that she is particularly interested in the Estes Road issue. Okay. It's been read. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Second. We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Okay. It has been approved. Okay. The next item on our agenda is we're going to have a discussion about our proposed valet fee policy. So just a little background for those who are here. A year and a half ago, this commission started having discussions about the what we control on the curbs, looking at the valet policy, looking at permit parking and parking meters, all relating to trying to come up with policies for the city that tries to get an accurate valuation of the curbside. So what's come out of some of these discussions is the conversation about the valet. And what we're going to do today is, this is informational. We're going to start with Mr. Hammond from Public Works, and then I know there's people here in the audience who want to speak as well. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hammond.
Thank you, Chairman Green and Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to be here again with you. My name is Jeff Hammond. I'm with Metro Public Works, and I'll be glad to give you an overview of where we left off, because it's been a few weeks since we looked at this. We last looked at this back in March, and before then it was toward the end of the year. And we actually started in earnest, I suppose, in assembling the working committee to develop this policy back in October of last year. So as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, this does have some history to it, and pleased to be back before you again this afternoon. On the screen is the valet fee policy. It's not incredibly readable, but hopefully you've had a chance to see it and refamiliarize yourself with it if that's necessary. I'll be very brief in going back through this. It is available, of course, on our website for anyone to pull off and see the latest version of this. Our objective in developing this policy was basically to clarify the code that's there. Metro Code 12.41.080C lays out how we as a department are supposed to administer valet zones, in particular the valet fees. And it reads, the fee for a valet parking permit shall be $50. Plus revenue lost annually for each required metered space as measured by the hourly rate for each metered space. And so that sounds pretty straightforward, but there are some intricacies to that we have tried to define as part of this process. One of the key parts of that is it never says, is that a potential revenue or the actual revenue? And so working with that committee, we've delved into some of those issues and tried to define that, and that's the culmination of that is this policy that is before you. It goes into some of the background of some of the issues we were having. It goes into some applicability issues in terms of the configuration of the street and the valet zone and so forth. And then finally we get to, on page 5, a rather complex looking formula, although I hope it is not incredibly overly complex, I guess. The intent there is to fairly evaluate the curb space that is being used by valet operators. And let me just take a minute to say we all of us on staff, all of us at Metro, the committee, certainly you all recognize the importance of valet and the critical role it has in sustaining very, very important businesses to Nashville. The livelihood, everything that people think about Nashville, there are a lot of behind the scenes things going on, and valet is certainly one of those. And we don't want to do anything that hampers that and that growth and the enjoyment that we all love so much. And so what we try to do is value the curb fairly and also incentivize only the valet that's going to be used heavily. So if you request a lot of spaces, 6, 8, 10 spaces, you're going to pay more for those on a per space basis than if you're in the 2, 3 space range, just as an attempt to, again, make it as efficient a process and ask as possible. So that formula goes through that, the number of spaces, the time of day, the number of hours per week that those spaces are needed, and so forth. And so we have developed a working document here that's intended for staff and for applicants to know where they stand in terms of the valet fee, and they can know that going forward. I will leave it at that. We'll be here certainly for questions if those arise, and look forward to answering those. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Does anybody want to ask Mr. Hammond any questions? I know we've had some discussions in the past. Yeah, with regards to the long formula for the fees, did they ever consider or look at why not try charging a flat fee? Currently, it's $50, right, for all year. And is that per space or is it?
The intent, if you go back to code, is that it would be $50 plus the revenue that's lost. The code is pretty clear about that. We're really good at the $50 part. We've got that down. That's very clear. And that's all we've been charging for a number of years. And so what we're trying to do is go back to the code and follow what we're supposed to be following and define what is that revenue component that is lost. You could do a flat fee. We have a supplemental document from some other cities. There are a few that use, more of a flat fee. But one thing that does is again, we're trying to incentivize an efficient use of those valets. So in our eyes, the less valet, the fewer number of valet spaces are requested, the more, I guess I would say, affordable we want those to be. So that's why there is kind of a rolling scale. The other thing that you have is not all valets operate the same way. Hotel valets, for instance, are generally 24 hours a day because they need that for their patrons to check in whenever they get here. Restaurants, on the other hand, some are closer to 24 hours a day. Many, though, don't pick up until the dinner time hour. So if you have a restaurant that doesn't begin valet until 6 o'clock, and say they run till midnight, and those are prime serving hours, our meters cut off at 6 o'clock, essentially. And so in that case, they would just have that $50 part of the fee because there is no revenue lost to Metro. It's only when a valet stand is taking time that otherwise would be metered and would be revenue to Metro is when this kicks in.
Because I think a lot of the issues that we're hearing from the businesses is the fact that they're going from $50 a year to upwards of $19,000 and $20,000 a year. Would there be any way in your formula to calculate a graduated to where, okay, in year 5 from today, we're going to be at code, at what the code says, and it's going to cost you $20,000 a year. In year 1, it's going to cost you maybe 10% of that, and graduated up to that point.
The technical solution there is pretty easy. We certainly could do that. That has not come up as part of our discussions, but there would be that could be something that could be built into the equation, certainly.
And last question, is there anything in the charter that's going to dictate the use of the funds generated from these fees?
We don't.
We get a lot of the complaints, they're operating without a valet permit and all this, these businesses that are going out on their own and just doing whatever. And obviously, we're not set up with enough manpower to go out there and address these situations. So is there going to be any of these funds going to be made available for enforcement actions?
Ms. Costonis May can speak to that. I tend to think it is defined in code where that money goes, but let me take the opportunity to say we don't get into that with this policy. We're simply trying to define that one piece of the code that's there. And then the other part of that is we know that there are a number of other changes in the parking world that are happening, not specifically related to valet or not just related to valet, but to our metering equipment, to enforcement capabilities, and council has seen some of that. Some of that has gone through, and some tweaks to code to that end have been made. And I think there is an intent to relook at the curb space as a whole, much broader than what we've done here. We kind of started prior to a lot of that getting underway, and in a sense, this is somewhat of a stopgap because we're continuing year after year to build just the $50. So we're trying to put this together and put it in place. I don't know how long it would be in effect. If some of those other larger efforts come along within the next year, it could be short-lived. But to your question in terms of where that money goes, we're not suggesting any change to that.
I can speak to the charter requirements question. Section 11907 of the charter states that all monies collected by the commission, meaning the Traffic and Parking Commission, from parking meters or any other service charges shall be remitted by it to the Metropolitan Treasurer, who shall keep such monies in a separate account earmarked for traffic and parking improvements.
Ms. Costones, could you speak to the issue of the fee? Because we have a $50 fee, and I know there's been discussion about, well, why not just make the fee, you know, $500, $1,000? But isn't there an issue, a state issue about fees being taxation, et cetera, that we have to be aware of, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there is. So basically, the concept is that if a local government charges a fee for a permit or a service that it provides, that permit or service has to be connected to the cost of what it is costing the local governmental entity to perform that service or do that permitting. And that if you actually go beyond that and make it like a revenue generating measure, then it would be equivalent to an illegal tax, which there is a Tennessee constitutional issue with that, because the state is very limited in terms of what taxation it allows local governments to conduct. In this case, the costs are, I guess, pretty much fixed. I mean, except for the cost of administering the permit itself, and that administrative cost, like the $50 was probably designed to just cover the administrative cost of like office work issuing the permit. But you know, it can also be contributed toward the cost of the maintenance of the right-of-way. And so it really is a question of who do you want paying for that fixed cost of the maintenance of the right-of-way? Do you want it to be, you know, just general taxpayer funds, or do you want it to be, you know, if someone is being granted a permit to have exclusive or almost exclusive use of that particular portion of the right-of-way, should they be paying for it?
Thank you. All right. All right, council member, thank you for joining us. I know you've been delayed due to budget hearings, so.
And I might have to leave early, too, as a result of that, but this is an important conversation.
Right.
So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hammond. So what we'd like to do next, I know that there's several members of the audience who are here to speak to the issue, and as we've stated, we're here to gather information today, and your input's very important to this policy discussion. So whichever one of you'd like to go first, come and introduce yourself, state your name, and try to keep your comments to, you know, around 3 minutes or so.
You think I'd learn this? Good afternoon. My name is Rob Mortensen. I represent hotels across the city and the state. I'm with the Hospitality Association, and thank you all for taking the time, and thank you for the comments and the thoughts that have flowed through this. I know there's folks that probably know more about it than I do. I'm going to, you know, give you all my thoughts coming from the hotels and their concerns. As you all know, we were hit pretty hard over the past year. It's funny, the restaurants were hit really, really hard. Obviously, the attractions were hit hard. We are a city of tourists. We really are. The hotels were hit the worst. And that's just kind of an unspoken, kind of a quiet secret that's out there, but they were hit really, really hard. And I think for our folks, it's really kind of a challenging time right now to be taking this on. I'm not saying, once again, I was not part of those conversations. But I will say this, we've got a lot of hotels that are coming into Nashville. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. You know, one of the things that was a thought is maybe creating opportunities for these hotels that come in that do spend hundreds of millions of dollars and create a lot of taxes for our city, that maybe they're allotted a certain number of spots out in front. And maybe 8's too many, but maybe a couple, 1 or 2. The revenue that comes in off of those parking through valet probably exceeds the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 that each one of those hotels are going to pay. So I would say that. I would say that, you know, I know I've spoken with a few of you all on this issue. It's a really challenging time. I understand that we're probably not going to kick this in today, but I think there's just a lot going on right now to kind of implement this. So appreciate your all's consideration. If you've got any questions, feel free or ask, and I'd love to answer.
Mr. Chair, and I apologize, this is me walking in late. Did we, is the current proposal that this would take effect upon passage?
The current document, I know you don't have your copy, but the current document says 2021 permits.
So meaning anybody who applied, I saw that on the display here, so.
Any 2021 permits, but this is a working document. You know, you guys could modify it as you see fit, but right now the wording is the very last line in there says 2021.
And I mean, I know we will have other public comment, but Mr. Chair, I think for me personally, from the council perspective, we get the hotel vacancy rates on a regular basis. And I think, again, hospitality and the industries that serve it in the area where this fee would take effect, I think I would like to see us maybe defer this one meeting and look at the implementation date, because I think if we were to, maybe there's an advisory period during 2021 where people could say, here's what the current permit value would be, you know, an advisory basis, and then we will not actually kick that in until 2022. That's my 2 cents.
Well, you know, today we're just really trying to gather, because as I've mentioned, I think to them before the meeting started, finally getting out of the WebEx Zoom meeting mode. These kind of public hearings I think are far more effective than where we all look like we're sitting in the bottom of a bomb shelter. So that's why, you know, we're trying to get this going again, and thank you for your comments.
So thank you, Commissioner members. Thank you, Council member. And yes, if obviously there are a lot of folks have a lot of thoughts and ideas around this, and I know we got others that would like to speak. So thank you once again.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon.
Tom Turner with the Nashville Downtown Partnership. Thanks for y'all being here today. And I got hit with. Boom. It works now. Sorry about that. I appreciate everything you are doing to make the right-of-way function more efficiently, especially with everything Metro has going on now. We're looking at downtown neighborhood traffic plan, smart loading zones. We're looking at on-street parking. And those things all came about in the works for a while, all came about after we started talking about this. So the timing, if we were looking at 2 years ago, would have made sense, and maybe a few months from now into the future. And talking about this with Jeff Hammond, who's been great on it, by the way, and listening to people. But I think what we're really looking at now is the most efficient and effective use of the right-of-way, which we're an advocate for, may be better informed by the results of these next 3 projects that are going on, the downtown traffic plan, the smart loading, and the on-street parking, to allow us to really look at how the street functions. And so I think what we'd be doing something that might be very short in duration and have an impact that exceeded the benefit from that. So I'm not generally an advocate of kicking the can down the road on something that makes things work better, which I think this ultimately is intended to do. That's really what I'm asking now, is that you consider how that, how these things will look in 6 months going forward after some of this work has been completed. And perhaps allows council to look at things and incorporate this into a more of a right-of-way use policy for all of these things, as opposed to just really looking at it from the perspective of valet zones. And just one thing, I know we have a certain amount of time, but the occupancy report for hotels right now, and if you're downtown on Friday or Saturday, it looks like it's at pre-COVID levels. But when you're talking about Sunday through Thursday, it's not the same. And it's the same way for restaurants as well. So they're doing great business at certain times, and the rest of the time they're not even treading water. So I think that's kind of something to consider as well. So I appreciate all of you thinking about it and considering what to do going forward. So,
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're also a partner with the Traffic Commission on several of our projects downtown, so we appreciate all your help.
Thank you much.
Okay. Who's next?
They said it pretty well.
Okay. All right. I know you're here from the Hermitage Hotel, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but how long have y'all had your valet stands, and how many stands do you have? Just help provide us some background, please.
Sure. So the hotel has
Would you mind stepping up, please?
It's on.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your question. The Hermitage Hotel has been in existence since 1910, and so parking has always been in front of the hotel. I don't know how far our parking dates back, but we are only a valet parking hotel. It's the only parking option we offer.
So many valet space, what is it? Does anybody know, is it 2, 4, 6 spaces they have? Just trying to understand, because everyone's situation may be different, but it's important to understand.
Exactly, and that's a very important question, not only for Hermitage Hotel, and any business operator is going to be interested in what their contribution would have to be. Right now, in our database, we have the Hermitage Hotel at 8 spaces. They have the most parking of anybody. We were on a call with Ms. Cassidy, one of Mr. Turner's associates, late last week, talking about this very issue and asking a question: is it truly 8 spaces? And as we just did a quick desktop measurement, we think it's probably less than that. It's probably, based just on a simple calculation, more like 5 or 6 spaces and not 8, and that has a huge impact on what they would be looking at. And that's why we've been careful to not talk about specifics about here's what you would pay or anything like that, because we think one of the first tasks that will happen when the commission, when this goes into effect, would be that each valet applicant would come back, resubmit their application, which they do every year, and we are going to look very closely at that very question. How many spaces do you have? How many do you need? We anticipate there would be some changes to that. Someone may start valet at 5 and decide, hey, I'll go to 6 and I'll pay nothing, essentially. And so we think there will be some relooking at that. Some businesses may decide to combine and operate out of one valet space. Again, those are all the objectives of what we're trying to do in making this as efficient as possible. So I'm a little hesitant to say we have them as 8. I don't think they're going to be at 8. 8 is that expensive number that we've been talking about, but I think it'll be somewhat less than that, particularly if other decisions are made. I did want to say, just to give you, and I wish I'd have brought some averages and things like that. I can certainly provide those later, but a hotel, we have a lot of smaller boutique hotels that have come into downtown, and a hotel operating 24 hours a day and using 2 spaces, that bill would come out to be $4,704. So just to give you some idea on what that would be, you start to see those much bigger numbers as you get in, as I said, into the 6, 8 spaces.
Hey, Jeff, real quick. And when you said we have them currently at 8, would that be based on previous years, the application that they submitted? So in the actual application we have on hand, there is a spot where the business can declare how much they are wanting to use.
That's correct, and we have that in a database, which admittedly is probably a few years old, and they've come in and you know, what we would do at this point would be go back and just look at the curb frontage that they have, and you know, it's obviously a landmark property, and they command, you know, kind of a presence there at the corner of Union, and so you know, I think we would take a look at that and see, you know, where that driveway comes in, how much you measure 30 feet off of that, 30 feet off the corner. That's what you're left with, and that's how we run that calculation.
And I would just say that we're also working with Public Works, who have just been wonderful, so thank you for accommodating that.
Thank you.
Did commissioners have any other questions?
Well, just from gathering all the information, clearly there's a difference between the CBD zone and the non-CBD zone. I'm assuming that's based on how much meters are in that sector. I guess from hearing everyone this afternoon, the question at hand is going to be, how do we differentiate being fair and true? Even though there's a fixed formula, there is a big difference between 8 spots in the Hermitage Hotel and probably a hotel the same size only operating 2. You know, it could, you know, it's a difference of $15,000, and that I think is going to be the gray area that's going to need a little further discussion.
I want to say thank you to Jeff for all this work. Appreciate it.
All right. Any other comments?
So this was an information session, as you stated. Good comments, good dialogue. This is an action item scheduled for next month. And so let's go back and do our thinking and do some homework and take these comments and put them to use, and you'll see us again next month with an action item. And that requires a motion and a second and a vote and whatever date you want to implement it and all that good stuff.
Okay. Council member.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my final comment here is listen to Mr. Turner's observations. I get it. I mean, we've got a smart parking pilot in effect. We've got a downtown traffic study about to get off the ground. And I appreciate his point, too, about not kicking the can. I think the place I don't want to wind up is we take no action on valet fees, right? I think the clear conclusion after a year of discussing this and taking into effect the impact of COVID, which we all hope will be short term, and obviously we're seeing some things return to normal, but we're not, especially in the hospitality space, back to normal yet, is, you know, at some level we need to do better in terms of curb management with the valet fee structure in particular than we are doing today. And I think between now and next month with this public input, we should be able to get to something that looks at an appropriate time frame and responds to whether this is the right policy.
Any other comments? I thank the guests for coming and your comments because it's very helpful. And this is something we've been discussing going on 2 years, the curb, you know, trying to get a value of the curbside. And we started, I guess, when the new mayor's term came, and they brought some things to fruition, and, you know, trying to juggle the balls and trying to get them all to line up at the same time is the challenge. So we'll, with no other.
Mr. Green, would anybody be allowed to speak?
Yes, absolutely. We'll just be clear that personally, big believer in public input on this. So, and that's the whole reason why we put it on the agenda today, because we knew we were having an action item. And now that things are more open, it's easier to have this discussion where this is much more dynamic than via a video screen. So yes, we're gonna, if this on the agenda next month, we'll definitely be welcoming comments. That's very important to us.
Ultimately, just looking at it, it's just the scale that it jumps is just significant for a business. I mean, it's a major impact to go. If you said you're going to pay 10 times more next year than this year, already in your head, that's pretty outrageous. We're presenting stuff that's 100 times more expensive, sometimes several hundred times more expensive than what it currently is. I don't think it's scaled properly by any
Okay.
means. And to the officer's point, thank you, that was actually a very good point earlier, maybe scaling it over the next few years.
Okay.
But even so, I think our bottom dollar here is pretty high.
Okay, so this is the input that's valuable when you look at things, because we can all get tunnel vision after a while. That's what we want to avoid. Okay, any other comments? And we, again, welcome to our new members. We'll look forward to seeing you next month.
John, you should have given us a heads up that this first meeting was going to be pretty intense.
Well, then you wouldn't have wanted to, then you would have told the mayor you wouldn't want to join, so we didn't want to do that. So,
I'm just teasing.
but we're glad everyone's here, and again, thanks for our guest, and Mr. Hammond, thank you, because I know you've been working on this laboriously for a long time. So,
I will make a motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.